The Philadelphia Phillies were off yesterday on Thursday after that huge shutout 13-0 win over the San Francisco Giants to close out that three-game series there in the Bay Area. They are now headed to San Diego to take on the Padres, who they just faced not too long ago at Citizens Bank Park. They're playing them again, this time on the road, starting tonight in San Diego. Tonight is a 9:40 p.m. local start, so another late start out there on the West Coast. Make sure you guys are well rested so you can stay up and watch the Phillies perform at the highest level. Tonight, Ranger Suarez is on the mound having an incredible season for the Phillies. So, something to tune into on this wonderful Friday night. Tomorrow, another great pitching matchup. It's a 7:35 local start here, so not as bad, not as late, more of like a normalish time for the Phillies. Zach Wheeler, the ace, one of the top National League Cy Young candidates so far in 2025, is facing off against the Padres starter Yu Darvish, so that should be a good one, a fun one to watch. And then Sunday, 4:10 local start, a day game for the Phillies. Christopher Sanchez, who's also having an incredible season. He's taking the mound for the Phillies in that series finale against the Padres versus the former Phil, Nick Pivetta. So that's what we're looking at in this three-game series with the Padres. Hopefully the Phillies can get a series win, continue that momentum after that 13-0 huge shutout win over the Giants, and go into the All-Star break on a high and into the second half for this playoff push, feeling good in pursuit of a World Series championship. Welcome into Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Henley. Make sure you guys subscribe for more content right here on Phillies Daily. So, speaking of Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez, who I had just mentioned a moment ago, they were both not named All-Stars this year for the National League in 2025, despite having incredible seasons on the mound for the Phillies. In fact, the Phillies only have two All-Stars this year, Zach Wheeler and Kyle Schwarber. Now, both Sanchez and Suarez were All-Stars a year ago in 2024, along with Zach Wheeler and five other Phillies, including Matt Strahm, Jeff Hoffman at the time, Bryce Harper, who was a starter for the National League, Trey Turner, who was a starter, and Alec Boehm, who was a starter. So a really big change from last year to this year for the Phillies All-Stars representatives, but they definitely could have had more, especially in Suarez and Sanchez. Now, Suarez, so far in 2025, obviously he missed the beginning of the season as he was coming back from that back injury, but he has been dominant ever since that first start he made, which was a little rough. Ever since then, if you take that away, he is just incredible numbers, and honestly one of the best, if not the best pitcher in the National League, in Major League Baseball even. He is just that dominant. He's 7-2 with a 1.99 ERA, sub-2 ERA through 12 starts in 2025. Of those 12 starts, 10 of those have been quality starts. So just impressive stuff day in and day out every time Ranger Suarez takes the mound. Christopher Sanchez also having a very impressive season for the Phillies. He's also 7-2 with a 2.59 ERA, which is incredible. And he also has 116 strikeouts in 107 2/3 innings. So more strikeouts, than just the innings he's pitched. So that's pretty good out of Christopher Sanchez as well. And he's thrown 18 starts so far in 2025. Of those 18 starts, 12 have been quality starts. So he's also going out there and performing at a high level, going deep into games and getting the job done for the Phillies whenever he takes the mound. As I said, Wheeler and Schwarber are the only representatives for the Phillies in 2025. Suarez and Sanchez definitely both, if they weren't initially put in there like they were, they definitely could have been added as replacements, because there have been two starting pitching replacements so far for the National League, and that is Cincinnati Reds pitcher Andrew Abbott and New York Mets pitcher David Peterson have been named National League starting pitching replacements. They passed up on Suarez and Sanchez, which is just really just crazy to me, crazy to a lot of people. It's been a hot topic over the past day or so, especially in the Philadelphia area when that had happened. Now, both pitchers are having pretty good seasons, specifically the Reds pitcher Andrew Abbott. He's 8-1 with a 2.07 ERA. He also has one complete game shutout through his first 16 starts in 2025. So obviously very good numbers for him. But of those 16 starts, he only has 6 quality starts. So Suarez and Sanchez both have more, both, at a better rate than what Andrew Abbott has been doing. He may have a better record. He may have a pretty low ERA. Obviously, Christopher Sanchez isn't too far off there, and Ranger Suarez has a better ERA. But, I'm not the one making the decisions here. And then even more head-scratching is the Mets pitcher, David Peterson. He's having a very good season, but overall, Suarez and Sanchez are both really having a better season than Peterson, better numbers. Peterson's 6-4 with the Mets this year. He has a 3.06 ERA, so higher than both of them. His record's also worse. He has a complete game shutout as well, just like Andrew Abbott. He threw his first 18 starts, and of those 18 starts, 11 are quality starts. So, he's right up there kind of with where Christopher Sanchez is. He has 12 quality starts and 18 starts, so Sanchez is better than Peterson in that category. And then Suarez doesn't have as many starts because of that injury. He only has 12 starts, but like I said, of those 12 starts, 10 have been quality starts. So he's on a better pace than Peterson as well. I think it's a flawed system overall, just the all-star voting and how, these guys get replaced and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not the one making decisions. Like I said, it's been a hot topic with these replacements being announced. Suarez and Sanchez should have been all-stars. And in my eyes, they are all-stars. But unfortunately for them, they do not get the credit on their careers for their accolades. Now, moving on to a little bit of different thing as we head into this July 31st trade deadline. Yesterday, or the past couple of days, the Phillies have been in a lot of rumors. And specifically, they have been rumored to be major players at this trade deadline, going after some top talent, the top fish, the top crop of players available or potentially available at this deadline. Now, the Phillies beat reporter for The Athletic, Matt Gelb, he came out saying that the Phillies are going to be aggressive, are likely going after some of this top talent. So he's a pretty reliable source there. Now, it's been said before, don't get your hopes up at this deadline. Obviously things have to be, the right price, the right range. Everything's got to work out in a certain way. So don't get your hopes up, but it is a bit, it just feels good. I'm blanking on the word I'm looking for. But, it's good that the Phillies are reportedly going after this top talent because they need it, especially in the back end of the bullpen, maybe even the outfield as well. And Matt Gelb went on to say that it sounds like they are willing to trade some of their top prospects to get some of this high-end talent, specifically a shutdown closer or a high-leverage late-inning shutdown reliever. It's like the Guardians' Emmanuel Clase, Joan Duran with the Twins, and guys like that. So guys like Andrew Painter could be traded, Justin Crawford, Aiden Miller, who knows? But, it's definitely good to see the Phillies are willing to make a splash. Now, Gelb also had mentioned that as we get to this deadline, obviously the current outfield has been underperforming really all year long for the Phillies. With the exception for Nick Castellanos, he's been solid. But we have seen a lot recently this year, even the past couple years, that Nick Castellanos' name is floated around in trade rumors that the Phillies could trade the veteran. Now, I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't think they should trade Nick Castellanos. He's one of the main guys in this lineup. He's a veteran. He's kind of getting to the end of his contract. So I feel like keeping him around is good for the team, for a veteran presence, trying to make a World Series push here. But he has been in trade rumors. But Matt Gelb had mentioned that guys like Brandon Marsh could be traded here at the deadline to get an upgrade. Or even Max Kepler, the veteran who they signed during the offseason. He's been a failed experiment out there in left field. Hasn't turned into the guy that they were hoping he could be. Obviously, the offense is way down for Max Kepler. Gelb had mentioned that he could be traded or even released as the Phillies move past this July 31st trade deadline. Now, something to keep an eye on. Even Johan Rojas probably could be in that mix of guys that could be traded for a potential upgrade out there in the outfield. So a lot of trade rumors involving the Phillies this past day or so. Just something to keep an eye on as we approach this July 31st trade deadline in a few weeks. The noise, the rumors, the rumor mill is just only going to keep getting hotter and hotter as we get past the All-Star break and towards the July 31st deadline. Speaking of the July 31st deadline and what the Phillies could potentially do, Obviously, I have been talking about a lot of rumors, a lot of guys that the Phillies could trade for if it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense. And a guy that they have been linked to that also is just linked to the organization just from the past is Chicago White Sox left fielder Andrew Benintendi. Now, Benintendi, as I said, he's the left fielder for the White Sox. He's 31 years old, not quite the player he used to be when he was younger. He is a left-handed hitter, a left-handed thrower. He was a 2022 All-Star. That was his only All-Star appearance of his career. He was a 2021 Gold Glover, so he's got above average fielding talent. He was the 2017 American League Rookie of the Year runner-up. He was a 2018 World Series champion with the Boston Red Sox, one of his former teams. He does have a history, as I said, right here with the Phillies organization. Not with the organization, but with the guy who was a major piece in the front office. The president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski. He was with the Red Sox they were both together with the Red Sox, Benintendi and Dombrowski, from 2016 to 2019. Dombrowski was there when Benintendi made his major league debut with the Red Sox. So there is a history there between those two. Dombrowski seems very high on his former outfielder. Now, as I said, he isn't quite the same player he used to be. Since he's been with the White Sox, signed with them a few years ago, he hasn't really been great the past 3 years. He had a 262 batting average in his first season with the White Sox in 2023. And then in 2024, he did hit 20 home runs last year, but his average dipped to 229 overall in the season. And this year, his average is just at 223 right now with a 282 on base, a 415 slugging, 697 OPS. He has 10 doubles, 2 triples. He does have 10 home runs, 34 RBIs through 63 games so far in 2025 with the White Sox. All of his appearances in the field have come in left field this year. He's been DHing a decent amount as well. Now, I did mention he was a former Gold Glover. Throughout his whole career, his fielding percentage is very good. This year, not so much. He does have a .965 fielding percentage out there in left field with the White Sox. So not really what you like to see out of a guy who has been a very good fielder throughout his career. Now, I did mention he has been mostly a left fielder throughout his career. He does have some major league experience at center field, but way more in left field. Also DH, as I said as well. He's a guy who has the talent, who has had prior success in his career, that could benefit from a change of scenery. He could benefit from playing in a better lineup like the Phillies with a lot more firepower than the White Sox. It's just easier for guys, to hit with the opposing pitchers, opposing defenses having to worry about guys like Bryce Harper, Alec Bohm, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, all those guys in the lineup. A guy like Andrew Benintendi could see better pitches to hit because of that and have just better opportunities to drive in runs and get things done at the plate offensively. Now, he does have 2 years left on a 5-year, $75 million contract he signed with the White Sox a few years back. As I said, he's already gone through 3 years of that contract, so 2 more left. He'll be a free agent in 2028. So it wouldn't just be a couple-month rental here for the Phillies if they were to trade for Andrew Benintendi. It could be a good option. As I said, the White Sox are clearly going to be sellers if teams are calling. They're 31-62. That's the second worst record in Major League Baseball right now. So teams that need relief help could look for the White Sox, like the Phillies. Or I had mentioned a couple guys that the Phillies could look into there. Or outfield help like Andrew Benintendi. Just a guy to keep an eye on, especially with the history that he has with Dave Dombrowski. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. Hopefully the Phillies continue their winning ways starting tonight in this series opener against the Padres with Ranger Suarez on the mound. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily from your host, Mike Hennelly. Again, thank you guys for watching, and as always, go Phils.